Hello, welcome back. Thanks for joining if you're new. I'm going to start off this weekly update a little differently and just kind of explain what my videos are about. I started my YouTube channel as a way to keep a video journal of my vermicomposting journey. Sometimes when something goes wrong with the bin, I can't really tell what happened unless I have video record of what I did and where things started to go wrong. I also wanted to create videos that were just a journal of how to keep a bin and different methods you can try going through the harvesting cycle to increase moisture, decrease moisture, deal with a very dry bin if you have it. So in my updates, you're not going to find any type of experiments that I do or weird feedings that I do with my worms. It's just basic week to week maintaining and sustaining the worm colony. With that said, I do have two regular tote bins that I use for two of the five bins that I have. The difference between the two right now is one I'm doing in your typical method where you add the shredded cardboard, smaller pieces of food, and one I am doing as a trash bin style this cycle. I gotta say, for the trash bin style, this is great if you need a little bit of castings every so often and you want to keep a bin running continuously, because a lot of the cardboard breaks down pretty quickly and the food definitely breaks down quickly. And you can see from the color, these castings are that deep color that they get once they've been broken down. I could potentially harvest this bin, where with the shredded cardboard one, can't really harvest it because I have a lot of material. But overall, the health of both of my regular tote bins looks very good, and I have been impressed with them this cycle through the summer where they're not too wet. The trash bin one is a bit wetter than the other, but they both look really good. When I talk to people in regard to why I vermicompost, a lot of people find it very weird that I have worms in my house. They get a bit squeamish about it, but I think composting and reducing the amount of waste that I send to the landfills is an important thing that I need to be doing. So I do enjoy vermicomposting a lot. This is one of the Vermiback totes that I came across early on in my journey through vermicomposting, and someone commented that Tom no longer makes the Vermi bag. So if you're able to find somebody getting rid of their Vermi bags, I would recommend them if your climate is more humid. If you're in a very dry area, I think these would tend to dry out pretty quickly, which is a concern that I have even though it's very humid here in New Jersey. I do have some concerns for this bin. I'm unsure if my worm colony is trying to collapse, but I'm paying close attention to the worms and making sure I add a lot of moisture to this particular bin to try to avoid that. Last time I didn't add the water until too late, and that's why my colony collapsed in one of my Vermi Bag Totes. This is actually the redone colony for that tote that did collapse about 2 years ago now, I think. It was about more like probably 18 months, but 18 months to 2 years ago, this colony had to be completely restarted. And that's what spawned me doing a breeder bin, because trying to rebuild the colony just on its own didn't seem to be working. The castings in this bin are very wet. One thing with the Vermiback totes, the wetter material definitely settles to the bottom, so I like to get in there and mix it up from the bottom. It doesn't disturb the worms too much. I don't find that I have any worm trails along the bag, but you definitely want to use a gentle hand when you do it. And even though the castings are wetter and I mix them in, still got that concern with the Vermiback tote where I do want to add the moisture in there. And last up is my sole flow through system, the Vermi Bag Mini. Around the edges on the Vermi Bag Mini, they tend to be very dry. I've had some great suggestions on putting bubble wrap around the edges, but my major success with keeping the edges not so crispy is actually putting food around the edges and making sure I add water. I'm actually spraying the bag itself to wet down the exterior of the Vermi Bag Mini, but it does allow for moisture to evaporate. It makes it great for being able to handle a lot of moisture in the bin because I don't get any type of leachate at the bottom of the bin. But unfortunately, I do tend to deal with the very dry edges. Another quirk of the Vermi Bag Mini is it's the only one that attracts beetles. For my regular totes, the ones that tend to run wetter because they're a tote style bin, I never find beetles in that bin. But I do find beetles in this bin. What I'm testing right now is to see if it's the amount of food that I put in that attracts beetles or if it's the moisture that attracts the beetles. So I'm going to give this a bigger feeding than I normally do and add quite a bit of cardboard. So I expect this to be pretty dry next week when I go in to check it. But I want to see if the beetle population explodes. So it'll be interesting to see what happens next week in this bin. And if you've gotten this far, I do appreciate you sticking with me. And as always, thank you so much for watching. Until next week.